Hey everyone, TrainFanProductions here. First of all, thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I can't wait to answer yours. Second, some questions were asked several times by various users, so I didn't jot them all down, but I'll answer whatever questions I can to the best of my ability. Warning, there is some strong language here to keep this being labeled as for kids, so don't get offended if I swear. Okay, answer time. Favorite Thomas characters, in no particular order: Duke, Edward, Percy, Henry, James, Gordon, Oliver, and the Scottish twins. Favorite Thomas episode, Busy Going Backwards, is pretty fun. It knows how to get me on the edge of my seat. What other favorite shows do you have alongside Thomas? There's South Park, American Dad, Regular Show, The Amazing World of Gumball, Ted, the TV series, and classic SpongeBob. Oh, and The Big Bang Theory. Favorite, least favorite episode you made of your series? Favorite, I'm gonna say Thomas kind of knows best. I think the Farquhar trio was written best there. I love fleshing out Thomas's arrogant, hothead personality, something I didn't feel was very prominent in the first season of TNWRS. Least favorite, I'm gonna say Percy and the Farquhar branch line. It just kind of felt like a do-over of Patience Percy. Favorite steam engine from both the UK and US? E2 from the UK. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's a Q1. They're very iconic. For the US, I'm going to say the USATC Dock Tanks, which is Rosie's basis. Favorite narrator? Alec Baldwin. I think his narration in Season 5 is just unmatched compared to Carlin and Starr. Season 6, not so much. I feel like he was more apathetic. His narration feels dull, and it's like he didn't really care. In fact, when I was a little kid, I thought I was listening to a different narrator when I was watching Season 6 episodes of Thomas. Yeah, quite the difference. Favorite season? I'm going to say Season 5. The dialogue, sets, props, and episodes were the absolute best. It proved that Thomas did not always need to follow Audrey's stories to be awesome. Even when straying away, it was not unfaithful to Audrey's vision. Audrey would probably disapprove because it had batshit crazy moments, but I don't think it looks too out of place in the classic era compared to seasons 6 through 12. Favorite special or movie? It's a tough pick, but I'm going to say The Great Discovery. I'm not a huge fan of most Thomas movies, but The Great Discovery wasn't a bad send-off to Model Thomas. It wasn't really too hard to follow, and it wasn't that gimmicky either. I like the message they're sending about mattering more than you think. A lot of other Thomas movies just feel rushed or drawn out or confusing or in some way. Favorite antagonist? George the Steamroller. I love his rivalry with the Skarlovian Northwestern engines. In my opinion, he's a good representation of the longtime rivalry between road and rail. And I love the accents that Carlin and Angelus gave him in both dubs. And I like how he takes more direct, aggressive approaches to sabotage engines. It really says a lot about who he is. Favorite pack member? I'm going with Alfie. I love how he makes the hardest work seem like play and doesn't care about getting filthy. I love how brave he is, and Alfie has kittens, and I love his expression of more dirt means more fun. He's a humble, determined, fun-loving character, and he feels relatable, honestly. There's just something about him that the other pack members don't seem to have. Thoughts on The Loud House from Nickelodeon? From what I've seen of it so far, I think it's pretty good. Thoughts on Aardman stuff like Wallace and Gromit or Chicken Run or Shaun the Sheep, etc.? I haven't really watched them, so I don't have anything to say yet. Thoughts on the Beatles, and what's your favorite Beatles song? I have listened to them, and I think they're pretty cool. As for a favorite song, it's a tough pick, but I choose And I Love Her. Have you seen any Godzilla films, and which ones are your favorite? I haven't watched any of the films, so there's not really anything to say there. Thoughts on Thomas being an LNER J50? I think it's a cool idea, even if it feels a bit odd to imagine him like that, considering he's been an E2 for damn near 80 years. But it's too bad we never got to see that kind of Thomas in Audrey's books. I think it would have been more faithful to his vision than the E2. A potential plus is that Thomas could be younger than Gordon. I myself am not too keen on Thomas being an E2, even if he's a modified one. Is Gordon a normal LNER A1, A3 in your AU, or no? And what are your thoughts on Gordon being a normal LNER A1 or A3? Gordon is a fictional, non-standard 1920s A1A3 add-on with differences from the standard design, pre- and post-crew rebuild, and I think it'd be more ideal for him to be a normal A1 or A3, but I think that the crew rebuild makes him stand out a bit more, and I also go along with it because it's already present on several Gordon models, Tomei, Bachmann, etc. Most random idea you've ever had? That would be N-Class James. Favorite locomotives? Well, besides the Q1 and USA dock tanks, there is the Austerity 060s, the Jinties, Talon, and Flying Scotsman. What fan series on YouTube are your favorites, be it either Thomas ones or ones that are like Thomas, but have their own characters and settings? Buckle up. There's Tales of a Rail Yard or Tales Before a Rail Yard by the LK Railfan. There's Steam Railway Stories by you. Adventures on Sodor by Dan Snell. The Engines of Sodor by Thomas 1 Edward 2 Henry 3. The Railways of Sodor by Sparkshot, or more commonly known as Knuckles. The British Railway Stories by Simon A.C. Martin, also known as Simierski. There's Tales from the Scrap Siding by 22 Tesla. Railway Stories from Sodor by Sacred Wolfie. And last but not least, Great Sodor Engines by the Sudrian AO. What is your inspiration for TNWRS? There are multiple inspirations. There was Tales of a Rail Yard by the LK Railfan. The man himself gave me the idea of reimagining post-season 5 Thomas. I got layout inspiration from Dan Snell, the creator of Adventures on Sodor. And my first TNWRS layout took inspiration from the post-episode 4 layout of his series, the big one. And I wasn't very happy with what I made because, one, it barely resembled the inspired layout due to space limitations, and two, I couldn't use it for certain locations like Tidmouth Station due to its structure, and I had to make separate sets. I initially thought of making TNWRS its own timeline with the inspiration of Victor Tanzig's The Stories of Sodor timeline, like with my own non-RWS TVS take, but back then I was unsure about establishing such a huge timeline of my own, so I stuck with the RWS timeline as a base, and I just built off of that. I admired his Tugs or Railway Series based stories though, and took some inspiration from that. Other inspirations include seasons 1 through 5 of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. Who is your favorite Thomas character and why? Percy, because I could always relate to him when I was a kid. He's cheerful, curious, clever, cheeky, friendly, and hard-working. I feel like that's something that I myself can relate to. Hell, I feel like he's still relatable even post-childhood. Which is your favorite cartoon show and why? I might change my mind, but I'd say South Park with its insight and humor. Who are you a big fan of? If you're talking about YouTube, I'd say Thomas 1 Edward 2 Henry 3. What is the easiest or hardest thing to do when making TNWRS? Easiest, I'd say, easiest is editing in iMovie because even though it's not the most professional, I can play with clips and sound until I get what I want, and I love playing with the pacing of the episode too. Hardest is filming with models and making sets. Some models are temperamental, like Percy, who has motor trouble and is kind of a bitch to work with. And it's hard to get satisfactory shots based on how I'm positioned or how I can position myself. And I'm indecisive when it comes to layouts and sets. I try to keep them simple, but it's like I'm just compelled to add more. I've changed part of the track plan for my last layout and rewired it because I thought it could be better. I've sort of taken a break from layout construction and resorted to audio stories. Hopefully, when my new setup is complete, filming will not be quite as hard, and if I have enough inspiration and motivation, there will be more model episodes. What is your favorite song, Thomas or non-Thomas, and why? Ashton Manor by Kevin MacLeod. I love its elegant feel, and it feels like it could fit anywhere. What is your favorite Thomas merch? My favorite was Tomei and pre-2014 Trackmaster, but now it's Hornby and Bachmann. Who is your favorite character to write for? James. I feel like I can cook with his fiery, hot-tempered, vain personality. Said personality makes for great plots. Well, that about wraps it up. Thanks again for submitting your questions. Hopefully I answered all of them, and hopefully I gave satisfactory answers. If I missed any, I'm sorry. It's nice to know that people are curious about what I do. Thanks for your support. And here is to a successful Q&A, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.